did he talk to you about me? Trading more stuff.
In Black Widow, the MCU has finally told Natasha Romanoff's narrative, and although it is a conclusion, albeit one that is less definitive than Avengers Endgame, it is also fairly straightforward. Scarlett Johansson's origin story has finally been told as she exits the MCU with just the remotest potential of a comeback in the distant future, depending, no doubt, on some narrative gymnastics. In today's video, we are going to explain the ending of Black Widow. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. The Black Widow ending explained. In the same way that Ant-Man was Marvel's take on the heist genre, Black Widow is Marvel's spy flick. As a result, there are plenty of double crosses, deceptions, and complicated plots in the film. Finally, it comes down to a failed attempt to assassinate Ray Winstone's Dreykov, the man Natasha Romanoff thought she had slain, and the destruction of the Red Room, which frees the women who have been forced to become widows against their choice. Natasha succeeds in the endeavor as she and her surrogate family of Yelena, Florence Pugh, Melina, Rachel Weisz, and the Red Guardian, David Harbour, knock the Red Room out of the sky, and Dreykov seems to have died for good. In addition, all of the widows inside the Red Room, including the enigmatic Taskmaster, are free of chemical mind control. Natasha surrenders herself to the authorities, presumably Thunderbolt Ross and his posse, so that everyone else can flee. However, Natasha is set free in the closing scene, and she sets out to find her Avengers family in order to reunite them. We now know that this will bring us up to date on the events of both Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, including Natasha Romanoff's death. Black Widow finally gave Natasha her memorial. Although it wasn't the star-studded affair that was Tony Stark's burial at the end of Endgame, MCU fans finally got to witness Natasha pay her condolences. Given the discovery that her relationship was always real, it was only right that her sister would weep for her rather than the family she chose after her defection from the Red Room. It's sad that Julia Louis-Dreyfus's appearance took away from the poignancy of the moment, but it's apparent that the build-up for Yelena's homecoming was worth it. Whether that's true or not, having a moment where supporters of Black Widow as a character were robbed or overcome by a comic noseblow is a betrayal. It also doesn't explain why Nat couldn't have had a memorial even earlier in Endgame's duration. At the very least, it provides more information about the enigmatic Contessa than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier did, implying that she works for an unknown mystery foe. Bringing down the Red Room. Nat and Yelena decide to bring down the Red Room after they are reunited. The problem is that no one knows where it is, so Nat and Melina devise a strategy that gradually unfolds. It's worth noting that neither Yelena nor Alexei are aware of the plan or even that one exists until later. The scheme is devious. Melina looks to be betraying the rest of her family by informing Dreykov that they are visiting her. While his goons are on their way, Natasha and Melina use the expected MCU super technological gear to change their attire and faces. The goons arrive, sedate everyone but Melina, and whisk them away to the Red Room, which turns out to be in the sky, literally above the radar. It's vital to note that Natasha has activated her tracking device, allowing General Ross to track her location and dispatch troops. Nat will discover Dreykov's plans, Melina will land the Red Room and bring its residents to Ross's custody, and Yelena will be entrusted with identifying the vials of the red chemical and deprogramming the current batch of widows and releasing them. Meanwhile, Alexei is mostly engaged in brutal force operations. He's an important member of the team, but it's natural that the strategic and detailed aspects of the plan are handled by the three ladies. Alexei's primary mission is to stop the unstoppable Taskmaster from interfering with the parts the women are taking care of. The plot works out semi-successfully, though Melina has to blow out the Red Room's primary engine instead of landing it, which adds a layer of danger and, of course, the MCU hallmark things fall out of the sky conclusion. Who is the Taskmaster and what happened to them? Taskmaster, the film's ostensible main villain was one of the key uncertainties heading into Black Widow. Taskmaster is a mystery figure in the comics that has an innate talent to replicate any fighting techniques they witness. That transfers nicely to Taskmaster throwing a shield like Captain America, using a bow like Hawkeye, and fighting hand-to-hand with claws like Black Panther in the Black Widow film. But throughout the first 2 acts of Black Widow, who Taskmaster is and how they're able to do what they do remains a mystery. Taskmaster is a mercenary named Tony Masters in the comics, but they work directly for the Red Room in Black Widow. When one of the widows goes rogue, Taskmaster arrives to pull them off of their misery. When Natasha confronts Dreykov for the final time, she discovers that Taskmaster is Dreykov's daughter, whom Natasha thought she had murdered as collateral damage when she blew up Dreykov's office years earlier during a mission to prove her commitment to S.H.I.E.L.D. and try to destroy the Red Room. They both managed to survive, though it's never quite known how. Dreykov's daughter, on the other hand, was seriously damaged and has a chip placed in her skull that gives her photographic reflexes. She, too, is subjected to the same mental control as the rest of the widows. Dreykov sees her as a weapon rather than a daughter. Taskmaster, along with the other widows, is finally freed from the mind control, and they all fly off together to unknown destinations. Why Black Widow rejoined the Avengers for Infinity War. Natasha's last contact with Mason resulted in her getting a Quinjet, as revealed in the last moments of Black Widow before the credits. Given the possibility that his predecessor would be fired, that's probably why Happy Hogan was able to take over as Stark's asset manager. As she discusses going to assist breaking her pals out of the raft jail, this sets up her joining Captain America's Secret Avengers prior to the raft prison breakout. This not only alters the outcome of Civil War, but it also explains why Widow rejoins the Avengers after fleeing. Finally, she understands that the superheroes are her real family after uncovering her pre-Avengers family. Natasha recognizes that the Avengers' shared experiences define them as a true family, just as she and Yelena were linked by their shared tragedy, which made their phony sibling bond feel so real. The revelation shifts her priorities when she searches for some sense of normalcy, which may be the only positive meaning of Joss Whedon's odd Hulk-Nat romance plotline in Age of Ultron, and leads the Avengers as a responsibility to wash out her previous crimes. What happens to the other widows? When one of the widows asked Natasha what they should do now that they've been freed from their brainwashing, she replied that they can do whatever they want as long as they stay away from the Red Room. Remember that the majority of these women have spent nearly their entire lives under Dreykov's influence. We saw before how happy Yelena is to have brought the first piece of clothing she has ever bought for herself. These women have been reborn in the same way. While Melina and Alexei are waiting for Yelena and Natasha in a jet, we witness another plane leave the Red Room, which we later learn are the widows. The widows return to pick up the family once they are all safe on the ground, and Nat has liberated Antonia. They would never abandon their fellow widows. It gives a group of women who have been through hell a great sense of community. Now that they've regained their humanity, they treat one another with compassion, including Yelena, Antonia, former widow Melina, and recently redeemed Alexei. What the ending really means. The most heinous act committed against Black Widow in Avengers Endgame was trying to persuade the public that she didn't deserve her own funeral. That was in response to Natasha's long-standing injustice of never having her own tale in the MCU. Her major stories were either left off screen, or she was a side character or a secondary hero. Whatever the details of Black Widow's story are, the most significant takeaway is that she finally saw the situation reversed. Not only that, but Natasha's narrative and the story of the Red Room victims who have been rescued is an overt allegory for the exploitation of young women and girls, which has similarly failed to find a space. It's an essential narrative undertone, and it's fitting that Natasha's legacy in the MCU was to release people who have been victimized in the same way that she has been, and to stop Dreykov from claiming new victims. But Black Widow's own tale was equally essential, and it's crucial that it was eventually told. After all, she was the hero that recruited Hulk, exposed Hydra's misdeeds, led the Avengers in the aftermath of Thanos' snap, and turned Hawkeye away from the abyss. Natasha deserved a better story than being the one who thought she was a throwaway, enough to justify her murder in Endgame, and Black Widow delivered. And there you have it, the Black Widow ending explained. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new and upcoming content. Thanks for watching.